Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Swagging On with Swagger Gaming, bringing you another World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth beta first look video. Today we'll be looking at the Affliction Warlock. Please remember that everything in this video is from the beta test server and is subject to change. I'll do my best to keep up with any changes made to the spec in the description and comment sections of this video. There were a host of changes to the Affliction Warlock in both baseline spells and talents, and it shows in the rotation. That being said, this is still a dot-heavy class with unstable affliction at the forefront. There were several baseline spells removed, and a few new ones added to the Affliction Warlock baseline spellbook. Both Summon Doomguard and Summon Infernal were removed from the spellbook, and you won't be able to use them as permanent pets through the Grimoire of Supremacy talent either. Life Tap was also removed from the spec. Drain Soul was removed and replaced by the basic Drain Life spell from the other Warlock specs. Drain Life costs 3% of base mana per second over its 5-second channel, and causes shadow damage, healing you for 500% of the damage done. The Shadow Bite ability on the Fell Hunter pet has had the increased damage per damage over time effect portion removed, and Health Funnel has been tweaked to now sacrifice 25% of your health to heal over 5 seconds instead of 24% over 6 seconds. The passive ability Soul Leech now only grants a shield equal to 8% of your damage dealt, up to 10% of your maximum health baseline. This was 10% of the damage dealt up to 15% of max HP in Legion. Command Pet has had its abilities switched up as well. The Succubus now has Seduction instead of Whiplash, and the Imp has Singe Magic instead of Cauterize. The Fell Hunter still has Spell Lock, and the Voidwalker still has Shadow Bulwark. Seed of Corruption now explodes after 12 seconds, down from 18, and Soulstone no longer costs mana. Beyond Soulstone, there were quite a few mana cost tweaks. Shadow Bolt went from 6 to 2% of base mana, Corruption from 3 to 1%, Agony from 3 to 1%, Fear from 10 to 15%, Create Healthstone from 5 to 2%, Eye of Kilrogg from 4 to 3%, Banish from 2.5 to 1.5%, Ritual of Summoning from 4 to 5%, Unending Resolve from 10 to 2%, Enslave Demon from 5 to 2%, and Create Soulwell from 10 to 5%. I will put these numbers and a link to the graphic in the description down below. Our mastery was changed to now include Seed of Corruption, Phantom Singularity, and Vile Taint, but it looks like the damage buff was slightly decreased. It's hard to tell what this will actually end up looking like because of the stat squish. In addition to Drain Life, which we talked about earlier, Affliction Warlock's got 2 other new spells. Summon Darkglare is learned at level 58. Although this shares the same name as the Demo Lock talent, that's where the similarities stop. The Affliction version is on a 3-minute cooldown and costs 2% of your base mana. It summons a Darkglare that extends the duration of your damage over time effects on all enemies by 8 seconds. Your Darkglare will last for 20 seconds and blast its target for shadow damage. This damage is increased by 10% for every damage over time effect you have active on any target. The second new talent is Shadow Fury. This was pulled out of the Destro and Demo talent trees and stuns all enemies within 8 yards for 3 seconds. Shadow Fury has a 1.5 second cast time and a 1-minute cooldown. Every talent in the Affliction Warlock tree was either moved, changed, or swapped out for a new talent. In Tier 1, Malefic Grasp was removed and both Haunt and Writhe and Agony were moved out. Instead, we get 3 brand new talents. Nightfall gives your corruption damage a chance to cause your next Shadow Bolt to be instant cast and deal 25% increased damage. This procs approximately 3 times every minute. Drain Soul was taken from our baseline talents and now replaces Shadow Bolt if selected. This costs 1% of base mana per second for the 5-second channel and causes shadow damage. The damage is increased by 100% against enemies below 20% health. The last talent in this row is called Death Bolt. Death Bolt costs 2% of base mana and has a 30-second cooldown. It launches a bolt of death at the target, dealing 30% of the total remaining damage of your damage over time effects on the target. Note that if you take Absolute Corruption, this will cap at 16 seconds worth of corruption damage. Tier 2 saw both Contagion and Empowered Life Tap removed, but Absolute Corruption remains and was nerfed, and now only increases your corruption damage by 15%, down from 25% in Legion. Writhe and Agony was moved in from Tier 1 and is the same, and Siphon Life was moved in from Tier 7, but has had its heal cut in half to 30%. In Tier 3, Howl of Terror was removed from the talent tree, and both Demonic Circle and Mortal Coil were moved out. Instead, we get Demon Skin, Burning Rush, and Dark Pact from Tier 5. Burning Rush was unchanged, but both Demon Skin and Dark Pact had their numbers tweaked. Demon Skin now has a max absorb of 15%, down from 20, and Dark Pact Shield is now from 250% of sacrificed health, down from 400, and now sacrifices your health instead of your demons. Tier 4 still has both Phantom Singularity and Sow the Seeds, but both have been tweaked. Soul Harvest was removed and replaced by a new talent called Vile Taint. Phantom Singularity now has a 45-second cooldown, up from 40, and now heals for 25% of the damage done, up from 20, and Sow the Seeds now only affects one additional target instead of 2. Vile Taint is a 1.5 second cast on a 20-second cooldown that costs 1 soul shard. It unleashes a Vile Explosion at the target location, dealing shadow damage over 10 seconds to all enemies within 10 yards, and reducing their movement speed by 30%. Tier 5 saw all 3 spells moved out to Tier 3. We get Demonic Circle and Mortal Coil traded in from Tier 3, and a new talent called Dark Fury. Demonic Circle and Mortal Coil had their mana cost reduced to 2% of base mana from 5 and 6% respectively, but are otherwise unchanged. The new talent Dark Fury simply reduces the cooldown on Shadow Fury by 15 seconds. In Tier 6, Grimoires of Supremacy and Service were removed from the spec, but Grimoire of Sacrifice remains and has had its AoE damage portion removed. Haunt was moved in from Tier 1 and has had its numbers tweaked. It now costs 2% of base mana, down from 5, has a 15-second cooldown, down from 25, and now increases your damage by 10%, down from 15. Shadow Embrace is a new talent and makes your Shadow Bolt apply Shadow Embrace, increasing your damage dealt to the target by 3% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. Tier 7 still has Soul Conduit, which has been nerfed to 15% refund chance on soul shards, down from 20%, but Siphon Life was moved out and Death's Embrace was removed. Instead, we get 2 new talents. Creeping Death makes your Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, and Unstable Affliction deal their full damage 15% faster. This is a nice damage boost, but may be somewhat difficult for newer players to manage. Dark Soul Misery is the other new talent, and is on a 2-minute cooldown, and increases your haste by 30% for 20 seconds. It appears that Affliction Warlocks got some nerfs, but that was not entirely unexpected. The damage output is still on par with other classes, and some of the new talents like Vile Taint and Shadow Embrace are pretty fun to play around with. I felt the spec was pretty slow in Legion, but taking Creeping Death and Shadow Embrace help make you prioritize your dots and buffs rather than just spamming Drain Soul. It'll be interesting to see what the best build is for raids and how the rotation changes. Well, that's all I have for you on the Affliction Warlock. If you like this video, please think about hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more gaming content. Thanks for watching and have a great one.